This is episode 98 with Joseph and Matthew Moheban.
Welcome to the Quarter Life Comeback Podcast, the show that empowers you to become the hero of your life's journey. With your host, Bryan Teare.
Hey guys and girls, welcome back to another episode of the Quarter Life Comeback Podcast, episode 98 today. I'm your host as always, Bryan Teare, and this week we are joined by not one but two incredible guests. It is the brothers Joseph and Matthew Moheban. Now, in case you haven't heard of them, Joseph and Matthew were two brothers who left the corporate world together to start a company that helps students and young professionals design and live their ultimate lives with a focus on not letting money or traditional assumptions hold them back from the work, lifestyle, and relationships they deserve. After feeling frustrated that they weren't running the entrepreneurial business they always dreamed of, the brothers asked themselves three big questions, which you'll hear in the interview, and realized they didn't have to wait as long as they thought. Growing up, the Moheban brothers admit that they weren't the smartest, the most talented, the most athletic, or the most anything really, but they did do one thing that stood out, and that was that they never stopped pursuing their passions. A burning love for sports turned into volunteer basketball and football coaching, which turned into starting a leadership camp, which then turned into a passion project while working in their banking and consulting jobs, and finally turned into a full-time entrepreneurial business by the ages of just 25 and 23. Now, I find this concept fascinating of using passion as a place to come from rather than a place to get to, and we dive into that and so much more in this interview. In this interview, you're going to learn how to use your passion to guide you to where you want to be, a common misconception that limits people from finding their path, how to prepare your side business to go full-time, the three big questions to ask yourself if you're unfulfilled at work, advice for new entrepreneurs, and why competition in your industry is actually a good thing. As always, you can get the links and resources we mentioned in this episode at bryanteare.com/098. But for now, guys, let's go hang out with Matthew and Joseph Moheban. Welcome back, everyone, and a big welcome to not one guest today, but for the first time ever, today's two guests. I'm speaking to Matt and Joseph Moheban. Guys, welcome to the Quarter Life Comeback.
Thanks for having us, Bryan. We're excited to be here.
Yeah, this is super cool for me. I'm one of four brothers, and I always say that like siblings is the greatest gift someone could ever have. So it's cool to be chatting to not just two brothers, but two brothers who have built something really cool together and gone down this road together. But for people who don't know who you guys are and what it is you do, why don't you tell us a bit about your quarter life story?
Yeah, so like you said, we're brothers. I'm 27, Joseph's 26 now. And for us, the journey started a while ago, actually. So back when we were in college, instead of going back and getting more of a traditional summer job to help pay for school, we ended up starting a leadership camp for middle school students to try it out, see what it would do. And that was largely due to our dad being great early on about encouraging us to think outside the box. And it kind of gave us an entrepreneurial bug early on. And so we tried that, not thinking too much of it, and ended up falling in love with it. And so we realized that at some point we wanted to get to not only starting our own business, but starting a business around something related to helping kids and helping youth. And we just didn't know what that was going to look like. And we didn't really have a great path laid out for us. And honestly, most entrepreneurs don't really have a path laid out for them, which we discovered. But for us, we were already in business school and majoring in finance. And that was because that was the safe route. That was what we were supposed to do. That was what all our friends were doing. And so we did that, and we graduated and got great jobs up in Chicago in finance and consulting. But we knew that our ultimate was always going to be something back in the entrepreneurial space, and more specifically around personal development. And so we had a great experience in the corporate world. Things were going really well, but we were working a lot and quickly got burnt out because we knew that we wanted to really be doing something else. And so we worked on the side to create the business and get it to a point where maybe we left a little earlier than we should have, but where we could leave and do it full time. And so we did. Yeah, right. And so we did that back in August 2015. And so it's been a little over 2.5 years now.
Yeah, that's amazing. Something that I picked up, and I'd love to kind of just address this quickly, is maybe Joseph, you can answer this one. But you said that your dad was sort of encouraging, in that he encouraged you guys to try something, like use your own initiative and that kind of thing. Yet you still went down the traditional path initially in your careers. How did that end up happening if you had a father who was like really open to doing things out of the ordinary?
Yeah, I mean, he went to IU, he went to Indiana University, so did my mom, and that's where all three of us went to. So we were kind of just following in their footsteps. But it really just came down to, we really conformed to what people at Indiana University were doing. And he was very okay with us, getting a corporate job and definitely going down that path, and was excited about the opportunity because it really was great opportunities that we got coming out of school. But what he instilled in us early on is what really kept us going and thinking about, what if we started a business together as early as possible, and how could we make this happen in a space that in a space where we love doing the work that we do. And so I think instilling that in us early on was a huge asset, and really was what allowed us to leave at 23 and 25 years old with only 4 years combined in corporate America.
Yeah, it's amazing. Something that I wanted to address, which I think is really cool, is I love how you guys, it really was a journey, and discovering what it is that you wanted to do. And you mentioned on your website that, and I quote, you guys said, growing up as brothers, we weren't the smartest, the most talented, the most athletic, the most anything, but you did do one thing, and that was you never stopped pursuing your passions. And I love this idea of using passion as a compass rather than a final destination. So many people say, and I'm sure you would have encouraged this in your work too, is like, how do I find my passion? We're actually like, that's not a place to get to, it's a place to come from. And I also saw on your site that you guys had this like desire for sports that turned into like volunteer coaching, sports coaching, and then a leadership camp. I wonder if you could just talk to that idea of using passion as sort of a stepping stone to finding what it is that you really want to do.
Definitely. And it really was what helped us get to where we are. And without it, I really don't know where we'd be, probably maybe still in corporate America. What it really did for us was not make us feel bad, definitely early on, about really committing to something because we absolutely love doing it. It came easy to us, or something where we got lost in time when we were doing it. And so by continuing to do that through sports, we unfortunately realized that we were not gifted with any sort of athletic ability that was going to get us to become professional athletes. So we wanted to figure out how could we stay involved with it. So we did volunteer coach for football and basketball, and ended up loving coaching, and really found out that that was what we loved doing. And I think the most common misconception that people have that really limits them from finding work they love and that really integrates with their life is that they think they have to stumble upon a passion, or they have to be born with it. And if they haven't found it yet, then maybe they're just never going to be able to do something with work that relates to their passion. And it's really the opposite. Like you said, it's where you come from. You have to earn your passion, and you can't do that without really committing to something and exploring it. Especially a lot of times you have to really commit to find out what you don't like doing. You think you're going to step into something and you're going to love it, and there's a lot of things about it that you didn't expect, or that you discovered, hey, or your preferences change and something just isn't what you thought it was going to be, or you really find out that you love it, but you can't do that without fully diving in. And so that's what we kept doing with sports, with coaching, and then eventually with entrepreneurship.
Yeah, and you mentioned something too, and it's a trap I think a lot of people fall into, is that I don't know if it's just part of the trend or the hype nowadays of like the whole find your passion movement, but it's it's almost as if people think they have to get paid to do their passion. And what I love about your story is that you volunteered to do sport like football and I think you said basketball coaching. And I think there's really value in, if there's something that really interests you and that you think you might want to go down, go down that road, like volunteer your time and figure out if that's something you want to dig deeper into. And it might even open up opportunities that you can't even imagine beforehand, like you guys obviously experienced. So I think there's really a valuable takeaway in that too. What was the big turning point for you guys when you decided, like, no, that's it, we have to get out of the corporate world and give this a go now?
Yeah, so for me, so I was in there, this is Matthew, a little longer than Joseph was. I was in the corporate world for about 3 years. And when I was coming up on basically the cycle for my second promotion, which I had really worked hard for, I was getting a lot of assignments, a lot of responsibility because I was doing really well. And all the feedback was positive that I would be basically on track for this promotion cycle. That was coming up in December of 2014. And basically in my review, they told me, you did an amazing job, literally keep doing what you're doing, but we can't promote you because they decided not to promote anyone from your analyst class, which was about 15 based in Chicago. And that really frustrated me because I basically had done as well as I could have done and worked as hard as I could have. And because of a pretty rigid promotion cycle and just a rigid structure in general, I was going to have to wait a whole nother year doing basically what I had been doing for the past couple years. And that was just kind of the wake up call that, remember, this isn't the only path. You're here now, but remember this entrepreneurial passion that you have and the business you've started talking about, or you talked about starting with your brother for so long. And it was at that moment where I just wanted to have way more control over my time, over how I spent my day and what I did for work. And I really wanted to love it and dive in and start that business we talked about. So that was for me when I told Joseph, we had been having some conversations at night and done some preliminary planning and stuff. But it was really after that when I was like, all right, it's time. Let's get this going. And for me, I left about 6 months later.
Mm-hmm. So did you build up kind of a safety net before you quit, or was it just kind of like, I know you said 6 months later, but yeah, how did that look?
Yeah, I mean, throughout the course of our jobs, we were definitely saving with the intention of putting that money back into the business once we started and using that money to self-fund it. So that was kind of the safety net. But what we did from December 14 until the summer of 15 was really try to get the business up and running. We created a one-on-one coaching program that we piloted with some different families and really just tried to create 1 or 2 different revenue streams, not even generating that much revenue, but just having in place what the program was going to look like. And then we said, it's time. It's been several years since we've been talking about it. So let's make it happen. We've got enough savings to last us for over a year. So let's give it a go.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Now, I saw there were 3 questions that you guys asked yourselves, and that was, whose script are we following anyway? Do we have to stay on that script? And why can't we start living our ultimate life right now? Which I think are really, really cool questions for people to go and journal on if they're in the same position. But once you realized that you actually could have this lifestyle and the business that you wanted without waiting, what were your first steps in moving into that?
Yeah, I think one thing I would preface with is if we could go back and do it again, we'd definitely be smarter about how we did it. But I think what was really important, and I guess would be the theme of this answer, is just that we did it, that we started, we took action. We wasted probably 4 to 5 months building what we thought was going to be a huge social media following before really having any products or substantial mission. And that ended up really wasting a lot of time, but it got us started and it got us to create the one-on-one coaching program that let us leave. So we went through basically most of the build up to leaving, not really working on what ended up being the business. But once we did decide, okay, if we're going to really leave our jobs, we need to have at least the prospect or the ability to be able to bring in some revenue before we leave. And so that was the one-on-one coaching program made the most sense for the quickest path to revenue. We didn't have to build up a ton of credibility with groups or schools or community organizations or businesses. It was very much let us help coach your son on or daughter on the strategies and tools and mindset that helped us get to where we are and, become entrepreneurs and succeed in college and corporate America. And so, it really evolved from there. We don't really do much one-on-one coaching anymore, which is funny. Now it's mostly group programs and workshops. And then we have our young professionals online community, which again comes back to the theme of just get started. You're what you end up doing the first time is not going to be probably where you end up. And Joseph and I laugh all the time. We'll look back at, documents or marketing materials or proposals that we created back when we first started and just laugh.
It's laughable, right? Yeah.
It's just like, wow, we thought that was good. We actually sent that to somebody, but that's just part of the journey. And so I think, more important than anything, there's great resources out there like you and a lot of the other people that we love and follow and learn from all the time to really help kind of cut out some of that learning curve that we really didn't know some of those resources existed and we wish we would have. But like I said, the key is just really getting started.
Yeah, man, that's been a recurring theme from the majority of my guests that I've had on here is like, just get started. And there's this funny line that if you're not embarrassed by version 1, you've launched too late.
I love that.
But I'd love to find out, you mentioned, in hindsight, if you were having to do it all over again, you'd do it a lot smarter. I'd love to lean into that with some advice you would give to new entrepreneurs wanting to go out on their own.
Yeah, so I think the first thing I would say is that if you really want, and it's that quote that people say it's an African proverb, but I think it actually may be attributed to somebody. But if you want to go somewhere, go alone. But if you want to go far, bring people with you. And I think that just that whole theme of really starting to build a network and leverage resources that are out there, and even spending some money on whether it's a coach or an online program or multiple books or live trainings or workshops to learn from people that have done it and have done it multiple times over so that you can avoid some of the mistakes that you'll inevitably make because you just don't know any better. And, for us, I think when we were at those corporate jobs with disposable income, that would definitely be, if I could change one thing, what I would change is that, we definitely should have been a little bit more aware of what was out there. There were some reasons why we weren't, but we've figured out that there's a lot of people doing what we do, and that was not scary. That was just the ultimate validation. So I think there's a lot of different ways that you can get started and have a really successful business, and there's a lot of people out there that can show you those different ways. But we think all the time like, oh, we're saving for something, or oh, we'll spend money on clothes or things that we really care about, which you should. But really think about investing in yourself and investing in your business before you even start would be definitely my number one piece of advice.
Yeah. And the other thing with that is, as finance and entrepreneurship majors, we both were, it's kind of funny to say this, but we see so many entrepreneurs who know their business will make money eventually, but that's not their number one priority out of the gate. And we fell into that trap as well because we were trying to get a social media following and we were thinking really big and long term about it. But the number one key that people need to think about, especially in an industry like this, is how can you start to generate revenue as soon as possible? And some people start to feel bad about trying to make money off of people for sharing their message or for selling their expertise. But really what making money allows you to do and generating revenue early on in your business allows you to do is reinvest it and share your message and your experiences with more people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you mentioned like get profitable as soon as possible, but also gather feedback as soon as possible about what people actually want and what's working and not. Um, One thing I'd love to ask, and you've probably been asked this a lot, but what's it been like to not only quit together and go on this journey together, but start a business with not only a good friend, but a family member?
Yeah, it's been
I'm going to cause a boxing match here.
yeah. So when we get interviewed on these podcasts, everyone thinks there's, probably a lot of like we get after it a little bit, and it really has never been like that. Our dynamic in our relationship has always been very healthy, and starting it as brothers, I mean, it's, there are certain days where we're definitely at odds, but all in all, it's been a huge advantage for us because we have the same vested interest in the long-term vision of the company. We came from the same place. We want what's best for each other, and it's been a lot of fun, and it's been, an experience that you can't really replace with another partner or with another person. So it's been great all in all.
Yeah, I mean, we live together too, so we basically are together all the time, and it's honestly one of our biggest advantages. We can kind of do that thing where we know what the other person is thinking or about to say, yep. And they don't even have to say it, which is a huge advantage in meetings. But even just like Joseph said, knowing what the other person, like the deepest core of who they are and what their values are, and always having what's best for them in mind, and having similar goals for a long time has made us good friends. We always played like Joseph would play with my friends, even though we were 2 grades older, in backyard basketball or backyard football. And so it's just we've always had a great dynamic and relationship, and that's translated really well to starting a company together.
Mm-hmm. Would you say it's important to have like time where you're just switched off and not thinking about business, or does that not really happen?
I think it's critical. I mean, I think there are days when it's really hard to shut it down because we live together, and we could work all night if we didn't have some things that distracted us from it. But it's amazing. Like, we just got back from Gulf Shores, Alabama today, and spent time with family and our grandparents, and we're just geared up to get going again on the business stuff this weekend and next week, just because that time off is a huge help. But at the same time, we're spending that time together. So it's nice to be able to continue to do that, even though we're not working on the business at all times.
Mm-hmm. Got it. So I want to sort of pivot into the businesses now. You guys have your website Live 220, but then you also have 220 Leadership. I wonder if you could just explain briefly what those two are.
Yeah, definitely. So 220 Leadership was basically how the company got started, that first company that we left our jobs for. And that is where we work with high school students and college students on helping them design and live their ultimate life. So similar to the young professional business, but with a little bit more emphasis on working on their 10-year plan for what their ultimate life is, and then working backwards to figure out how the things that they're going to automatically be involved in, like school and extracurriculars and any other opportunities for leadership development, really fit in and enhance that 10-year vision. So it's really just a framework to help them figure out what their ultimate goals are, what would their life look like if they were living and working through their passions every day, and then kind of helping them come up with a customized plan on how to go achieve that through year goals and 90-day goals and daily habits. So that is primarily how we work with high school and college students, which is through workshops and in-person engagements. In 2018, though, we're launching our online program, which we're really excited about, and that allows us to create, basically, we've taken all of our workshop content and put it online so that students in large quantities can take or go through our framework and basically create their personalized plan. So we're really excited about that because it's going to expand our ability to help more students and expand our impact. And then the Live 220 site is specifically dedicated to young professionals. So looking for more of an immediate impact. We still have everyone that we work with, young professionals included, think about their life 10 years from now, and then work backwards to figure out, how soon or how quickly can I pivot, or what pivots are needed to start living my ultimate life as soon as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're speaking my language, man. And on Live 220, you have a 7-day email series. What can people expect to go through when they sign up for that?
Sure. So the 7 emails are the 7 greatest obstacles that young professionals face when trying to live their ultimate life. So through feedback and through our own personal experiences, we created a 7-day email course to help you think about those 7 obstacles. And there's challenges and prompts throughout those emails that really help you start to create a 30-day plan on how you can overcome those obstacles. So it's about money, time, fear of failure, fear of uncertainty, judgment, a lot of different things that we face every single day, whether it's starting your own business or trying to make a big life decision. And it goes through those in depth and helps you create a plan to overcome them.
Yeah, and the obstacles are really, about the stories that we tell ourselves that keep us on the traditional path, because we kind of build up these walls that we think are there, that we're confined by this script. And really what we have to do is if we look at the obstacles, speaking like Ryan Holiday, basically the obstacle is the way. So if you can figure out how to overcome the obstacles that are holding you back, then you clear the way to really design your life from scratch and live your ultimate life.
Yeah, I love that. And I'll definitely link up all of those links in the show notes. Before we wrap up here, is there anything else worth mentioning for people listening that we haven't touched on? I know, Matt, I saw you gave a talk called Money is Everything Holding Us Back. So maybe we can address that.
Definitely. And we definitely go through that in the 7-day challenge. That's one of the obstacles is money. And one of my first posts for young professionals, which ended up being one of our most popular, was about this concept, which basically is that so many people have their lives dictated to them by their goal of making money. And a lot of times we do it without even realizing it. So we're in a job that we don't like or that is fine and we're making a lot of money, so that's great. And we have these income or savings goals because we want to do certain things by a certain age, when all that does is really hide what our true calling is and what our ultimate life would actually look like if money wasn't the primary focus. And so what we really talk about is money should be a byproduct of you creating value through that work that you're really supposed to be doing, that you would absolutely love to wake up for every single day. And by moving money to basically the secondary or even the third benefit of what you're doing, it really allows you to make decisions freely and removes money as this huge constraint of stress and you feeling like that has to be the primary goal is to make money. Mm-hmm. So that really was what that speech was about. And it's definitely a recurring theme for young professionals.
Yeah, I'll link that up too. I've heard an analogy where money is like red blood cells. You need it to stay alive, but it's not the purpose of being alive.
I love that. That's perfect. Yeah.
Guys, I do want to be mindful of the time here. Before we wrap up, I've got some quick fire questions that I ask all guests. So whatever comes to mind first, and you can each answer, or if it's, if you've read each other's minds and it's the same thing, then that's cool too. The first one is, what do you wish you'd been told early in your 20s?
Money isn't everything.
Mm-hmm.
Take a chance on yourself or invest in yourself.
Yeah, that's a good one. What is the biggest opportunity for quarter lifers today?
I think with how easy it is to start a business, even if that's not your primary source of income, being able to start a business without investors, without having to go get a lot of funding and, come up with some incredible invention, really just providing value through your story and your experiences and your passions. It's an amazing way for people to integrate their work and life like they've never been able to before. People talk about, and forever have talked about the importance of work-life balance. But what we really like to talk about is work-life integration, which really means that kind of blurring the lines to not be separate. And I don't think there's ever been a better time for anyone to be able to do that, especially for people that are in their 20s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Does that work for both of you?
Yeah, that's good for me. I would say too that incorporates side hustles and trying to figure out things that you can do outside of work to start testing those ideas. It's not the leap of faith to start a company and change everything, but to really start to practice and figure out what that thing is that you really care about and want to dive into.
Yep. I've got one final question. Before I get to that, where can people go to find out more about you guys and all the good stuff you've got going on?
Yeah, so our website is live220.com, all spelled out, live220.com. Our youth site is 220leadership.com. And then we have just our personal accounts basically on Facebook and Instagram, and those are the ones we're really on.
Cool. And I'll link up all of that in the show notes. Before I get to the final question, I just want to take a second out to acknowledge you guys for not only coming on today and sharing your story, but for the work that you're doing and, taking a chance on yourselves when you knew early on that you weren't doing what you wanted to be doing, and now equipping, college students and young professionals with these skills that we aren't taught at school where we really should be taught them. So I just want to acknowledge you guys for the work that you are doing. The final question that I have is, what one thing can listeners do this week to start creating their own quarter life comeback?
I think that, and this is what we tell everybody, is to set your 10-year vision. And we say, do your 10-year unrealistic vision. So think about, if there were no limits, failure wasn't an option, what does your life look like in terms of work, the work that you do, your lifestyle outside of work, and your relationships? And I think that is just the best compass you can have for what you need to do this year in 2018, in the next 90 days, this month, even this week. I think getting kind of beyond some of the big events or big decisions that you have, like in the near term, they seem a lot smaller once you think that long term.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Good here too.
Perfect. Well, Matt and Joseph, I want to thank you guys for coming on the Quarter Life Comeback.
Thanks for having us, Brian. We love being able to connect with people doing very similar work. So appreciate everything you're doing, and thanks for having us on.
So there you have it, guys and girls. That wraps up episode 98 of the Quarter Life Comeback podcast. And a big thanks again to this week's not one, but two amazing guests, Joseph and Matthew Moheban. If you like this one as much as I did, please share it around with your friends on social media and shoot me a tweet at Bryan Teare to let me know your biggest takeaways. For me, it was the whole concept of using your passion as a compass or a guide to find the thing and to create the ideal life and business that you want, rather than trying to get to a place of passion or purpose. So follow that passion, see where it leads you, and take advantage of the opportunities that pop up along the way. You can catch the links and resources we mentioned in this episode at bryanteare.com/098, and make sure you head on over to quarterlifecomeback.com to subscribe to get these episodes and so much more as soon as they go live. Thanks once again for joining me this week. I appreciate you more than you know. And until next week, keep creating your quarter life comeback.